Okay, looks like the match is ready. So let's go ahead and dive in. We're going to take a look at opening hands as we get into match number 3, week number 1, season number 2 of MTGO Masters Modern Horizons. Let's get into it.
All right, what are we looking at here? So Andreas's hand has no one drops. Remember all the things that I said prior to going into the match out the window on it. Andreas kept a reasonable hand of a couple of two drops, but not enough or no early pressure here. And Arya's hand looking pretty good. 2 lands with a Necro, a couple of Soul Spikes. Really wants to pick up a Phyrexian Tower. Assuming that there's no misclicks, Arya would be able to go Phyrexian Tower on 2, pitch Grief, sack it to the tower. That's 3 mana for a turn 2 Necropotence.
Alrighty. And yeah, I think it's funny because we were watching you play this deck, and getting that Necropotence out on turn 2 or 3 seems relatively reliable, despite mulliganing a little bit here. I mean, you showed us twice how to do it, right, with using Grief and Phyrexian Tower, and that was honestly really, really dirty. Now we're talking about Boros energy and what has to happen for this deck to win. You mentioned something about attacking. We didn't play anything on turn 1. So what's the plan now? Are we pivoting, or is there another way for us to really get into this, or what's the deal here?
So Andreas's hand, it would be really good at playing a long game, right? You have a ton of card advantage. Johnny's a 2-for-1, and Raptor's a 2-for-1, Amulet's 2-for-1, bunch of 2-for-1s in Andreas's hand. But that's not the game that he needs to be playing, because Necro is a lot more than a 2-for-1. Necro is a 10 or a 12-for-1. So, Andreas choosing to go with the Johnny there, again, trying to put a little bit of pressure on to Arya's life total. But that is really the name of the game here. It's just deal as much damage as quickly as possible before Arya has that big Necro turn. Now, granted, there are 2 Soul Spikes in Arya's hand. So what we might even see on turn 3 is Arya just go cast the Necro, maybe draw, 12 or 14 cards, and then just pitch cast both of those Soul Spikes.
I really do wonder what the record is for most number of cards drawn with Necrodominance. I mean,
I gotta be close, right?
Yeah. I was gonna say, like, if we have to put somebody in contention, 34 seems like a really good number. But let's talk about this next. So Arya went ahead and took Amped Raptor here with Grief, which is kind of interesting. Maybe also saying that Unstable Amulet can generate you advantage, but that's not what this is about.
Yeah, and I think that is makes a lot of sense, right? She doesn't really care that much about Andreas playing 4, 5, 6 turns, because she knows that she has the Necro in hand, and once the Necro stays in play for multiple turns, the game's just going to be over anyways. And it's actually kind of interesting here to see Andreas cast the Amulet instead of the Raptor. I would be a little inclined to maybe cast the Raptor, try and hit a creature, and just go a little bit wide, because you do expect Arya to probably have that follow up Necro for turn 3. But we go for an Amulet, hitting another Amulet. That's not really what Andreas is looking for.
Yeah, and so this means now the window is pretty clear here for Arya to play the Castle Locthwain and slam the Necrodominance. We've got double Soul Spike, which means we're going to get a lot of cards and a lot of life, and that means a lot of cards. And I have to imagine that from this point on, it's going to be very, very hard for Arya to lose. The most important thing here is that we need to draw into those critical cards that you showed off in the first matchup today. Cards like Shieldred, cards like Soul Spike, and then cards like, I guess, even Sorin to a degree has that extort. You pulled that one off too.
Yeah, March as well is another way to kind of convert those extra cards. We saw in game 2 of the match that I played, where I just could not find a way to gain life. I think I resolved the Necro and just didn't find those Soul Spikes, but she's already got 2 lined up. So, she can freely, I don't know exactly how deep we're going to go here, but I would presume, with 2 in hand, probably somewhere between 12 and 14, to be honest with you. She goes with 11, I think. She was, what was she at before? 17?
I think so, something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
And so this is a lot of cards drawn, a lot of life paid.
Yep. So there's Soul Spike number 1, and she did pick up, looks like a Sorin, and I see another March. So presuming that we get another untap step, we can go, say go to end phase Necro for a bunch with the mana untapped, and then still before discard step, then you can use that March to gain a bunch of that life back. And I see a Shieldred as well, so we might just be pretty close to done here, Anu.
Okay. I mean, yeah, turn 3 and maybe the game is just already over, functionally over. Let's talk about something real quick here, because the theme for this week is certainly Planeswalkers, right? And when you're playing this mono black deck, you're aligning yourself with Sorin. I'm gonna say I did see a couple Sorins come out of the side of the main deck into the sideboard
Hey.
going into game 3. So maybe talk to me about that. Well, that's a critical decision, right? It does gain life. It does do a bunch of stuff here, but you think it's just not that good? Like, I mean, how did it feel when you were playing the Sorin in your match?
So I think the card is powerful when the game is about like when you're playing a much more interactive matchup. Like this matchup, for example, is kind of the perfect home for Sorin, where you're playing a bit of a longer game. Your opponent's interacting with you. You're interacting with your opponent. And the reason that I boarded it out specifically against Arya's Nadu deck is I just didn't feel like I had enough time for it.
Okay.
Where to like cast it, flip it, activate it a couple of times. Like that's just kind of not what those matchups are about. Similar to like the Ruby Storm matchup. But against Boros and maybe the mono black mirror, it seems like Sorin would be quite good in those matchups.
Okay, interesting. So it's not just like a because when coming up with these themes, because we already have next week's theme ready and it's a banger. We're going to announce it at the end of the stream here today. I want to make sure that we're not just like, oh, tossing in a couple cards, but it's like, not actually making an impact. So it's good to hear
Mm.
from you that Sorin has a home here potentially. On the other side of the board here, we do see Flage, Titan of Fire's Fury coming into play. That deals 3, gains 3, puts Arya down to 8. And is there any risk here? Flage is one of the all-star cards from Modern Horizons 3 that, originally was slept on, but then really showed up in numbers at the Pro Tour.
I mean, I guess there's maybe a little bit of a risk, but with the Shieldred, it feels a little tough. So like Arya can go Fell the Profane as a land, go to 5, play Shieldred, end of turn, pay 4, go to 1, gain 8, go up to 9, and then the Flage deals 5, right? Because the Flage deals 3 on ETB and then triggers the amulet twice. So, Arya goes to 9, takes 5 from the Flages. I guess there is a little bit of danger here. If Andreas can find a lightning bolt, well, that's all at the window because Arya found the 3rd soul spike.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say like the other card that's really exciting to me. I see a bunch of Nadu memes on chat, by the way. I'm just gonna let that simmer for a little bit in the back of my head. But Arena of Glory is a card that paired with Flage seems really strong. I don't know how many copies you generally see in these Boros energy builds, but that could also be something that is not so bad here because Flage buying that back, dealing 3 to Shieldred, attacking,
That
dealing another 3. That's pretty strong.
That Static Prison is a huge top deck here for Andreas. We're going to be able to Static Prison the Shieldred, and we're going to have 4 mana to get that Flage back. So that was a massive, massive top deck here for Andreas. And now Arya still is not out of it yet because she does have the Soul Spike. But yeah, that was a massive, massive turn of events here because that Shieldred in combination with the Necro was going to be able to take over this game handily. And now Andreas is not that bad, right? The Amp Raptor puts Arya to 7. As I said, the Flage is going to deal 5 total, 3 from the ETB, 2 from the amulets. That's going to be put Arya to 2. You figure +4 from the Soul Spike. I guess the March you can like March pitch all 3. You could even go play Sorin, March pitch 2, flip the Sorin, do stuff like that. So this game is definitely not over yet. But Andreas, finding an answer for that Shieldred is definitely something he needed.
Yeah, that's actually so crazy that Andreas, despite Arya having drawn so many, like again, this is what happened in your match against the Nadu deck, which was it just seemed like there was no way for you to lose, and then draw step after draw step after draw step, and there's this narrative that's coming out of the Pro Tour that once Nadu is gone, this mono black Necro deck is going to be the best deck in the format, and it's not going to be close, and we're gonna have to ban another card, but these games sort of demonstrate otherwise where there are real restrictions to Necrodominance, and perhaps maybe it's not as bad as we think.
Yeah, so Arya's going to go for the Sorin. Now the question is, here's the tough part. So you can Soul Spike and Soul Spike pitch 2. My guess would be Soul Spike pitch 2, target the Raptor, go up to 6, and flip the Sorin. Probably, I guess you can also. You're one short of where you want to be because you can go. The other line is you could go March pitch 3, kill the Flage, extort with the Sorin, flip, deal 6 to the Raptor because you want to be able to kill the Flage here. This is kind of a tricky spot here for Arya.
Yeah, I mean, I guess You're right. And then the next question is you clear the board. There are 2 copies of Unstable Amulet in play here for Andreas, which means he has no cards in hand, but he's not actually out of it just yet. Which means you're gonna have to think of the next play, because if you go empty-handed, how many cards can you realistically draw off of this Necrodominance? I mean, the Shieldred, that Static Prison was actually just huge, wasn't it? Like, now we're sort of getting to see the power of that one top deck, because it gives life to this game. It's not over.
Yeah, I have to pull up the text on Soren real quick. I can't remember if it transforms or if it's one of those exiles comes back. So I'm just gonna pull it up real
Exile
quick.
and then return it to the battlefield
It
transformed.
does
Yeah.
exile. Okay. Okay. I wasn't sure if it just transforms. So that actually that's very important because it gives Arya revolt for that fatal push. So she can actually go, and I think that's what she's doing. She's going to go Soul Spike, kill the Raptor, post combat, flip the Soren, push the Flage, and then that's going to give her a little bit of a life buffer to then utilize that Necro.
Okay, that's actually so sick. I mean, these are the small sort of like minutia that change cards from, being good to being completely broken to, these sort of things. So, I mean, sticking it out, I like this a lot. Like to see Soren do things, right? Soren also, like, I feel like coming out of the Pro Tour, this is a card that really didn't get that much time under the limelight. I feel like Tamio and Ral were the 2 big ones, and then I guess Ajani as well. And in fact, is it strange for me to say that maybe Ajani was the best planeswalker coming out of the weekend? Is that inaccurate in your eyes?
No, I would agree with that. I
Yeah,
mean,
right?
I think that maybe the hype around Ral and the Storm deck in general was a little bit higher. Excuse me, going into the weekend.
Mhm.
But we all know how that turned out. Ral did not have the best showing.
Crickets chirping, yeah.
Yeah. So Arya only drawing 2, and I think that's respective of. It's really tricky though, because the even respective of the Flage still deals 5. Now, Andreas doesn't have enough cards in the graveyard to get the Flage back. So on 2 energy right now, I wonder what we're thinking about. I guess the issue here is if you use the energy from Amulet, your Aether Hubs are a little bit worse, and that Sacred Foundry is kind of not going to do much here.
Static Prison checks on the upkeep, right?
No, main phase 1.
Oh, okay, interesting. So there may have been a world where we draw the card,
Oh,
we see what it is, and then we release the prison and then buy back the Flage. But it's a Guide of Souls that was the draw, and that's not quite it. And the amulet didn't quite get there either.
I also had not registered that we were going to have to sack the Static Prison now, and that's going to give Arya back the Shieldred. And
Yeah.
we're making food tokens to gain a little bit of life, and that's really why Soren is so good in this deck. Is you'll notice here that's six life from those food tokens. That's 6 more cards off the Necro.
That's so gross. That's so gross. Uh
All right, we're only going to draw 3 here.
okay. I do like the moderation, right? Because there is, you've probably played like the Burn versus Death Shadow matchup like a million times over.
Oh
This
yeah,
really feels like that dance. You're back and forth, you're fencing almost to say, and okay,
we found another prison.
okay.
So this is really interesting because Andreas wants to prison the Shieldred, but you can actually just use the energy to immediately fire the amulet. Uh, the other issue there is that if you unstable amulet, maybe find a fetch land, or I guess it would have to be a fetch land because if you use the 2 energy from the amulet, you don't have the energy to fill the hubs to be able to cast that Flage. But if you go for the amulet and hit a fetch land, it's kind of massive here. You just get to put that Flage Red into play and deal Arya 5 damage.
Can I meme just a little bit? I'm reading the
Yes.
text on Soren's ultimate, and this
Mhm.
is such a petty ultimate, but it
Oh
says gain
yeah.
control of target creature, becomes a vampire, and it gets a lifelink counter if you control a white permanent other than that creature or Soren, and it just so happens that all of Andreas's creatures are white, so it's just like a I don't know. I just read this and it's just like a giant like I don't know. Funny. This is funny. Anyways, but yeah, the point being that Soren is now at 7 loyalty and can actually ultimate. I don't know if this is actually that great of an ultimate, and maybe sort of why Soren is not like as in that same tier level as the other planeswalkers,
Yeah.
but it's gained a lot of life for sure.
Right. So what ended up happening there was Andreas hit a second Flage off of the amulet, did decide to spend that energy from the prison. So that's going to deal Arya 5 damage. But I think what Andreas was banking on was that Guide of Souls providing an energy to make sure the prison stays around. But Arya had the fatal push to kill the Guide of Souls. So now we're in the same situation we were in last turn where we have to give that Shieldred back. Now, the one upside here for Andreas is he does have red, red, white, white without the Aether Hub. So now is able to flash back that Flage. And as we talked about, the Flage triggers the amulet. That's 5 damage.
That is 5 damage. Now, can we somehow squeeze out of this? We go up to 7 off of the food. We can't quite extort. Oh no, I guess extort. Yeah, both sides of Soren has extort, right? So,
Yep.
Can you extort twice now then?
I believe so. Yeah, I believe they stack.
Okay, so we're slowly finding ways to creep our life total up 1 point at a time.
This is going to be so close. Because Andreas can put Arya. So Arya's going to go up to 7 off the food. Andreas deals 5, puts Arya to 2. Next turn, Arya can go Soren, make a food, pop that, go to 5, end step, draw 4 with the Shieldred, go up to 9, and then you're at 9 versus the Flage. This is actually like weirdly turning into kind of a close race.
This is sick. I mean, these games, I'm not surprised. These two players at this caliber, this is what the game's boiled down to. Can you imagine? Like, I've never played at the Pro Tour, but if every single match is this close, and okay, it looks like he's gonna throw the towel in and just realize, I guess, that he's not quite there, which is it makes sense. That's fine. Save your mental energy for the next game. Speaking of the next game, talk to me about sideboarding. Let's start with, looks like Arya's bringing cards first. So we'll start on the Arya side.
All right, so let me just pull up Arya's deck list here because it's a little hard to see on that. So Arya's mono black deck sideboard. There's a collective brutality, some damping spheres. Those are not for those matchup. Dothi Voidwalker is kind of interesting because it's good against Flage. You can stop the graveyard shenanigans. The needles aren't really where you want to be, I don't think, although they are good against the amulet, I guess. I think Arya wants more copies of the One Ring, just trying to eke out, or this is kind of the matchup they're there for, and then probably the Toxic Deluges as well, because we kind of talked about how Andreas's best path to victory is just going wide. So I think that's what Arya is going to be looking at. And then from Andreas' side of things, there's some Blood Moons. Purges are pretty good. Those you definitely want in this matchup. But purges, purges and wear tears. Past that, probably not a ton else.
Okay, and then what about on the other side here? Sorry, you said purges and you said purges and then the wear tear. All right, so then let me ask you this question, right? We just saw a really close back and forth here between these two decks, and my first question is going into game 2, Andreas on the play, maybe this time with the 1-drop, maybe this time not. Who do you think is favored to win this, and why?
I think it is pretty heavily play draw dependent. Presuming that Andreas has an aggressive hand. We saw Andreas keep a hand last time that was, a lot of 2-drops, and he was really, really close to winning. Now, this hand, on the other hand, I like quite a bit more. This is going to be turn 1 Guide of Souls, turn 2 Raptor with that energy from Guide of Souls. So this is kind of the exact hand that you're looking for from Andreas. Just that 1-drop with a slightly more aggressive start.
Okay, yeah, has the bolt, has the flage. There's the Arena of Glory. This is a card that is kind of interesting to me. I guess Exert on the land is quite powerful, but the downside is also very real. And the thing that really gets me here is, well, Andreas doesn't have very many lands, but Boros Energy, it's an aggro deck. You can stay pretty low to the ground here. Arya, on the other hand, looks like she's mulligan down to 5. Bowmasters in this matchup, is it any good?
Yes. Yeah. Andreas has, you see the Amped Raptor in hand. There is enough stuff. Andreas also has the Ocelot Pride as well. So there's enough targets for Bowmasters. I didn't quite get a good look to see what Andreas sideboarded up, but he may have actually cut some of those Ocelot Prides in fear of getting Bowmastered. But even if he's going to keep in the Amped Raptors, so there's going to be enough targets.
Yeah, I heard Ocelot Pride had gone through many iterations while being created, and at one point was one of the most broken cards in the set. And so the version that we have right now, very clearly, anytime you set something be printed at 1 toughness, you're like, oh, Bowmasters, that's a very interesting concession to it. But going back to the match here, looks like Thoughtseize is going to take care of Unstable Amulet. That kind of makes sense. You can contain the rest of the hand, or it's like not that scary. And then here comes the Amp Raptor.
This is the aggressive start we were talking about. Where now Andreas has 3 energy, can filter that into the Guide of Souls to hit for 3 this turn, and next turn we're going to be able to hit for 6 more plus the Flage, and has a bolt left over. So there's a lot of potential here for Andreas to kind of just get under Arya before she's able to set up and get that Necro going.
Okay, new question. This
answer.
well,
Speaking
okay.
of Necro, by the way.
Yeah, my question was this Necro deck. How good is it without Necro? But then
Well, we
Arya
don't have to
proceeds
answer
top
that, you know?
10. Yeah, looks like it's
We'll
an
save that for
irrelevant
next
question
episode.
for sure.
See, here's the thing on it. You just when you're playing the Necro deck, all you have to do is just always draw the Necro. It's not that hard.
I see. You have one job and one job only. I get it. I get it. All right. Well, here comes the whole army crashing in. That's 3, 4, 5, 6 points. But the Orcish Blowmasters is coming to play. It's going to kill the Amp Raptor. I guess you don't really have to block quite yet.
I think Arya is interested in double blocking though, because she wants to get that Guide of Souls off the battlefield before Andreas can find 3 more energies. So yeah, I actually like this double block a lot.
Okay, got you. Yeah. And who knows? Honestly, it's one extra point of damage. That's one extra card from the Necrodominance. You're right. It could just be the difference between winning and losing, which is
And
kind of absurd. Yeah.
I almost wonder if Andreas was maybe thinking about going pre-combat Aether Hub 1 energy, Flage up to 3, and then you can attack with both to jump that Guide of Souls. And that does play around Bowmasters a little bit better. But yeah, it looks like we're choosing to go for the Flage post-combat, I believe. That's going to put Andreas up to 2 energy, which is not quite enough to activate that guide next turn. I kind of think you just go upstairs here. You don't really care about the 1/1 token, and you
Ooh.
really want to get, Arya's life total. Yeah, I like this. Low before the Necro hits the battlefield.
Oh, and you know what's really tragic? Elegant Parlor comes into play tap, so you can't buy back the Flage just quite yet. But a fetch land, I guess, would let
Fetch
you do
land.
everything you want. Yeah.
Yep. Oh, fetch land with the Arena of Glory. Ooh, we might get
Yeah,
we
now
might
we're
get to
cooking,
see
right?
it.
Yeah. I don't know. Something about a hasty Flage. I've been playing this card in Legacy lately. Flage is like no other. There is like, I mean,
It does not mess around.
It really just does not, right? Like there is no finding out. You just lose, like straight up. Okay, Lightning Bolt is a pretty good one actually. What?
Yeah, so Arya choosing not to cast the Necro. I guess her plan is, I think what she's going to do is March, pitching the Bowmaster to kill the Guide of Souls to take a little bit less damage, buffer the life total up a little bit before playing that Necro. I think it's, I think that makes sense to me.
Okay. I mean, that's a pretty heads up play. I'm gonna be real with you. Respect. In these sort of situations, I always tend to I guess what is it? Succumb to my desire to do the thing, make
Be
flashy play,
aggressive.
and then
Be aggressive.
exactly, and then I lose. I lose. I'm sorry. Okay, but like we still have a chance here, so that's what's most important, right? So
Yeah, presumably this. I think that's why we didn't. Yeah, okay. So we're gonna go March, pitch Bowmaster. That's gonna put Arya up to 13. And what's also nice about this line is if she draws a land, she can actually go Necro with a black mana up, and that's important if you draw a second March because in the spots where you tap out for Necro and you draw the March, you actually can't cast it. But if you are able to have a black mana up, it kind of opens it up a little bit more to the spells that you can find off of the Necro.
yeah, no, this is kind of funny too because Giganta to the okay,
Love it. Let's go.
Oh, all right. I was contemplating just going bolt on the end step, right? I mean, everybody plays around the first bolt. Nobody plays around the second one, right? So there's a chance that you just, sneak a win out there. But it seems like, yeah, that's actually interesting. I wonder how this is going to play out here because next turn.
What's funny about this too is the arena is face up. So Arya knows that Andreas has the ability to go arena plus Flage next turn. That's 6 damage guaranteed. So it's really interesting. Like, she just says, you know what?
Well,
I'm going all in. Let's do it.
Okay.
We did hit the soul spike.
Yep,
but I
there
think
it
it's
is.
actually not enough because the soul spike is going to go at Andreas, right? Arya's going to go up to 9.
Yep.
That means the Flage is going to have haste. ETB, you kill the army token, attack trigger, you deal 3 to Arya, that's 9 damage.
Oh, Arena of Glory is so good. So good.
Yeah, and you see Andreas hovering over it. I think he knows.
Yeah, I mean, Andreas is a killer. He does not miss. He's gonna see these lines and he's gonna just win on the spot here. So Soul Spike, unfortunately not enough. And honestly, you love to see it. I want game 3.
Yeah, and what's also funny about this is you're not really playing around anything because Arya only has 5 cards in hand. The only thing that she could possibly have is one Soul Spike because
Yep.
5 cards is not enough to have double Soul Spike. So you basically have perfect information here, and you know you have a Soul Spike covered.
All right, here comes the Elder Giant. It's gonna hit the Orc Army token, and then we're gonna swing in for game, and that's the writing on the wall here. And I mean, this is probably what it takes, though, right? We see the delta in opening plays from the Boros side here. Once, I guess, both times Andreas was on the play, correct?
I did Andreas win the die roll game one? I can't remember.
Okay, I'm not 100% sure. We can always check that back in the VOD later on. But the point being that, you must be aggressive here because you're not. I don't know how much you're really interacting with this Necro deck. You just have to have the turn one, the turn two. So I almost wonder if the opening hand here from Andreas was maybe a mulligan. Now, keep in mind, format wise, right? The first time players play a match, their decks are unknown. So one player can show up with either deck A or deck B. But Arya has already played with the Nadu deck, so Andreas knows that the matchup is going to be Necrodominance. He knows that he needs to have that sort of aggressive keep in the opener. And I wonder if that means for game one, we could have mulliganed a bit more aggressively. This time, though, Andreas on the draw, it's going to be maybe the hardest game in the match for him.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and he's really looking for a hand similar to game two. And this is that hand that's similar to game two. Andreas's hand's got a 1-drop and a Johnny. We have 2 answers in the form of Wear Tear and Static Prison. You can't really ask for much more than that.
Yeah, I think I look at Andreas's hand and I'm like, wow, this is so cool. But it's like one grief away from just not being that good anymore.
Yeah. No grief in sight here for Arya. She's got looks like a bit of a slower hand, but still good, right? Turn 2 Bowmaster, turn 3 Necro. You can't ask for a ton more than that when you're on the play. I can't quite get a good look at what she was looking at the surveil, but we're gonna find out what it is because she did keep it.
Okay.
And Andreas picks up, I believe, land number 3. So we're probably gonna see Guide of Souls on 1, and then likely a Johnny on 2. But a Johnny kind of awkward against Bowmasters. Looks like we kept the second Shieldred
Ooh,
because you
okay.
don't really want to Bowmaster the cat token because then that flips the Ajani. So kind of an awkward lineup. Now the question is, this Ajani is going to give Andreas 2 energy, right? If you play it, where if you attack with the Guide of Souls, Arya could line up a block with Bowmaster. So interesting to see. You could also maybe go for Amped Raptor up to 3 energy.
Oh, whoa,
Whatever
whoa,
you
whoa. You
hit.
think Andreas is going to tap out here? That's tricky,
Potentially.
right? Yeah. Because
Yeah, I guess you could also hold up Wear Tear.
turn 3 is a very critical turn. Oh, okay. All right. I was wrong. My bad.
Yeah, I actually had not considered just not casting a spell here and holding up like Wear Tear plus Surveil Land. That's interesting where you're kind of basically just putting yourself a turn behind because then you could do the same thing next turn where you go next turn, play a 2-drop and hold up 1 mana for the Wear Tear. And
Mhm.
we are going to attack into the Bowmasters. Maybe just doesn't think that Arya has it or isn't really concerned about it.
Okay, but like I say that from the perspective of a control player who's perpetually scared of everything and anything under the sun. I mean, with this sort of deck, though, sometimes you just have to take those risks, right? Like the problem is like the risk that you're taking is, does my opponent have their namesake card? And okay, wait a minute,
Oh,
that's interesting.
hold the phone. We're not going for Necro at all. Okay, so you saw Arya had like hovered over the Bowmasters, thinking about going to trade for the token or for the Guide of Souls, but decides to go for the Toxic Deluge instead, which is a much cleaner answer to this stuff and gets to save the Bowmasters for later.
Okay. That's fascinating for sure. Yeah, these decisions are very. I guess I've made the wrong call, or not necessarily the wrong call, but my calls have not been in line with either of the players for every single play possible.
Oh
So
my goodness.
there's a lot for me to learn here. And
Yeah, and
this
Arya
is
picks up the Thoughtseize. This was going to work out
yo,
so well for Andreas because he was going to have the ability to play 2-drop hold up Wear Tear, but because Arya drew that Thoughtseize, now she can just take the Wear Tear and slam the Necro on a basically empty board.
jeez.
Interesting. Okay, I'm mistaken. We're gonna go ahead and take the Static Prison instead. So I think her plan might just be not cast Necro, Bowmaster, and then take Andreas' answer for Shieldred.
Yeah, I mean, Wait, okay. And this is actually really smart by Arya. I actually love this play because let's not forget, Shieldred is in fact quite the house just by herself, right? Shieldred like has ruined formats just by being the literal apocalypse. And so in this instance, I mean the line of, okay, if you have an answer to this card, I'm going to take it. But guess what? Not only do you need one answer, I've got a backup one. So you need a second one. And this is great. Like tactics and strategy coming in from the Necrodominance side, completely sort of invalidating and laughing at the wear tear. Honestly, I love it so much.
And now Andreas' Static Prison flooded. He topped another one off for Surveil Land and then he hit a Static Prison off the Amped Raptor.
Oof.gif.
And too many prisons. But now we're at 6 energy. Ocelot Pride's gonna go up a little bit. Yeah, see, Andreas wants to hold up that wear tear, but he's in a position where it's like, do you want to? Yeah, I guess you can go here and try to find a land first, but you do kind of want to hold up that wear tear still. It's interesting though, because from Andreas' side, when like if you see Arya not take the wear tear, do you think that she even has the Necro in her hand? Is like this weird mind game level? Because if he thinks that she doesn't have it, maybe he doesn't even hold it up.
Mm.
Well, we definitely have it. We even have 2.
yeah. All right. Well, the Bowmasters comes in, puts Echo Baronin down to 15, and here it is, Shieldred, right? We did not make the play that we made last turn to not cast good old Shelly, and yeah, this game is going to be a little bit tricky for Andreas. I mean, Lage is a decent start to getting back into it, I suppose.
Yeah, and now Andreas is kind of in a position where he probably can't afford to hold up the wear tear anymore. I mean, I guess you can just go Ocelot Pride instead of playing the Ajani, but you could also get greedy here. You could cast the Ajani from exile and then flip the Amulet to try and find an untapped land. But looks like we're going to go for the safe play and just play the Ocelot Pride instead.
Oh, there's another Bowmasters. I mean, oof. All right. Yeah, this game is really just turning up all things mono black Necrodominance. I mean, these draws, and I think that Thoughtseize was actually one of the slickest Thoughtseizes I've seen in a while. Just goes to show you the flexibility and why Thoughtseize might be like one of the most, I want to say like air quote magic cards of them all, because there's just so many ways you could slice that pizza.
Oh yeah,
a pizza being Thoughtseize.
What kind of pizza?
The Thoughtseize pizza.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to put Thoughtseizes on my pizza that I get from Papa John's.
Well, maybe I do. All right. Anyways, I don't know. Yeah, I'm honestly so mesmerized. But anyway, Johnny is going to come into play here now off of the Unstable Amulet. We have 6 energy available to us, so we might as well tap to see what we can rebuy off of the Unstable Amulet. And like,
all right, Shieldred is doing its best impression of taking over games as it is one to do. And yeah, this is an interesting spot. So Andreas still holding up the wear tear for that potential Necrodominance. Yeah, I'm curious as to why we didn't use the amulet on our turn. Maybe we're just trying to like hold up more information. Maybe he thinks that because it would be good to hit a land drop there.
Yeah,
not sure.
I see pizza on pineapple. We'll address this like once and once only. Not a fan. Nope.
Also not a fan.
Okay. Oh yeah, you're right. Okay, yeah, I remember you mentioned that earlier. Yeah, I can't do it. I can't do it. That makes your pizza into a dessert, and I like savory pizza. Okay. All right, mods. You know what you must do.
Anyways. We're not trying to get canceled today, okay? Let's save that for a different show.
All right, well, here's the Necrodominance finally, and now maybe Andreas is like, yes, after all this time, I'm paid off.
To convert my wear tear.
Yeah.
Little does Andreas know that she just has a backup anyways. And I like casting the Necro there because you want to set up a turn where you go for the Necro Shield return, and you know about the wear tear, so you have to fish it out at some point. So now you're in a spot where now you've gotten the wear tear out of his hand. Now you can just go for it again next turn.
All right, I think we may just have to activate the Unstable Amulet one more time, and release the Ajani that's underneath or in exile, because
you could hear me out. You could go play Ajani, flip the Ajani, so you have 3 tokens in play. Because if you play a second Ajani, you get to flip it because it legend rules itself.
Okay.
Then you have 3 creatures in play. You can go unstable, or you can go activate the Ajani to make a cat token, dealing 4 to Shieldred, and then finish it off with a lightning bolt.
That's so elegant. What? That's like just trading lightning bolt for Shieldred. I mean, I'm down.
Yeah, that is an option that's available to Andreas. You could also go amulet, get just use it, not play the Ajani, hit a land, and then go Flage Bolt the Shieldred, or you could hit Bolt and then just double bolt the Shieldred. So we found
Okay.
it either way.
I'm down. I'm down for this too. Although I do wonder, maybe having the flip planeswalker would just lead to a better board state here. It's tough. I don't know. I don't know.
Potentially. Yeah.
Yeah, potentially, exactly right. Like, but I'll take this double bolt. Get rid of
Yeah,
the Shieldred.
killing the Shieldred is massive too, because we know Arya's follow-up play is that Necrodominance.
Mm-hmm.
So she's not going to be able to well, she does kind of have a sort of quote unquote free turn to do it because Andreas doesn't currently have any red mana available. You get into a tricky spot where if your opponent has a red up, you can't go too far down because you are in a spot where you want to cast your pitch spells in the end phase before you discard. But if you do that, then they can just bolt you in response. But without red mana, Arya doesn't have to worry about that. So
Oh, okay. All right. Well, this is a double block on the 1/1 push in response on a Johnny. So there is no flipped planeswalker. And now 5 mana in play. Cast the Necrodominance. We have Bowmasters available to us, 10 life. So we can pay a decent amount here, but obviously we're playing against red white. We need to be cognizant of burn spells. So what's the magic number? How much life do we pay here?
yeah, this is a tough question to answer. You have
That's why
mana up
I
for
asked it because I
March.
don't know.
I mean, the answer is a couple or all in. There's really no in between. Well,
Hmm.
never mind. I lied. She went in between. But we did find the March. So now the question is, do you cast March now? I think you kind of want to, because if you wait on the March, then you're giving Andreas an opportunity to find a removal spell. But it looks like we're just going to go for the Bowmasters here. We are not going to cast that March. At least we're thinking about it. Now, with Andreas only on 3 mana, I guess you're not worried about a ton of stuff here. Like
Mhm.
I guess in theory, you could go like untap land, Flage Bolt would kill you. But other than that, not a ton. If you hit a bolt off of the amulet, it's only 4 damage because it's 3+1 from the amulet. So I guess, Arya's not really in danger of dying. This Flage is going to put her to 2. We know about that March, and she could also deploy the One Ring to get protection for a turn as well.
Yeah, and I think also because exactly 2 lightning bolts were used from Andreas on the Shieldred, you can take a little bit of a calculated risk saying that, you don't have lightning bolts number 3 and 4, or it's
Yeah.
unlikely for you to. So I'll take the risk here, and it seems like it paid off. But Andreas not out of it quite yet. I mean, we
I
still
love
are.
this. I
Yeah.
love this too because you get to go One Ring and hold up the March. So whatever Andreas plays this turn, you could just march. And the beauty about this play is playing the One Ring on the turn that Andreas wants to play the Flage is perfect because you're not going to take any damage from the Flage or the Amulet this turn. And it is kind of Andreas's easiest play, most mana efficient play to just cast the Flage from the graveyard. But you're not going to take any damage, and you could just march it anyways.
Did we keep a card on top, or did we? No, we bin the Aether Hub.
In the
Okay.
hub, yep.
Okay. Here's the Unstable Amulet.
So now you can go land, amulet, fable, pass. I think this is weird. Like the question is, do you want to just flage now? Even though you're not getting the damage out of it, you have the flage in play for next turn, or do you want to wait a turn on the flage, get the damage and play next turn? And it looks like Andreas is choosing the second option.
Okay, so Aether Hub is going to put us to 3 energy, 5 minutes on the clock in the red zone. And
Yeah,
we
for
are going to
the
play the Fable, yeah.
for the folks watching at home, I know you might notice a Phantom Ajani under that unstable amulet. I think that there might be some sort of visual bug because
Oh,
that
you're right.
should
You're
not be
right.
there.
It should not,
I've
because we
encountered
got
that
the
a
Arid
couple
Mesa,
times.
right? Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah. So that Ajani is not able to be cast. I know it's kind of confusing, but just pretend it doesn't exist.
Good call. I fell for it. Okay, and there it
We're
is.
just pitching
Big
the whole hand.
March.
I like pitching the whole hand because you have the ring to draw cards anyways. You don't need cards in hand.
Yeah. Plus, like, the cards weren't even
Ooh,
that great. Like, Grief with our
those
opponent
cards are
having no
great.
cards. Uh, Hello, Soul Spike. Hello, March. Okay, that's a lot of life gain.
Yeah. And now at 9, with the Soul Spike, I probably just go for like 3 cards here. Because ideally you want to find 2 black cards and you want to be able to go Soul Spike but keep the March in hand. So whatever that number is, probably like 3 or 4.
Yeah, I wonder. Okay, so have you heard of the ham sandwich?
I mean, I've eaten ham sandwiches in my life before.
So it's akin to like garbage time when you're so far ahead that you could literally win with a ham sandwich. That's like
Mm.
a phrase that I have held dear to me in a while.
Yeah, yeah.
Are we in that phase right now? Is it impossible for Arya to lose?
Without the shield rid, it's maybe a little bit tougher. Like, she is kind of limited on. She actually chose not to draw cards here. Interesting. She is a little bit limited on like how much life she can gain with the cards she has in her hand. Like right now, you can go March, pitch, Soul Spike, and then March for 6. Right. So I guess we're keeping the Soul Spike in hand because we want to, or yeah, I guess we're not drawing cards because we want to be able to go March, pitch, Spike, and that can get rid of the Flage. So this is going to deal Arya 2 plus the 3 from the Flage. That's going to put her to 4. And then what we're probably going to see is March, pitch, Soul Spike, and then just hit the Flage for 6.
Yeah, that sounds like a dance move. Hit the flage. Nice.
Hit the Flage. I'm curious as to how many. Do you recall how many Soul Spikes we've gone through? I think this is the second one.
That's a great question.
It might be the second one. I can't recall. I know it's at least the first.
That's an
Yes,
astute observation.
we are gonna. Thank you, Honor. I appreciate that.
Okay, yeah, but I feel like I mean, this is just writing on the wall. Go ahead and take care of the Titan here. Gain 6 life. Go up to 10. Take 2 from the One Ring. Go down to 8. All the meanwhile still having Necrodominance available.
The thing is, you say it's writing on the wall, but Arya's going to go to 8 off of the ring. That Flage can be cast again, and that's going to deal her 5 more damage. Like the chip damage really adds up here. Okay, well, I've answered my question.
Yep. There you go. There's at least 2 and 3.
Now the question is, do you just go to 1 and try to find enough black cards to kill Andreas right now? You don't know that Andreas doesn't have a lightning bolt in hand. Oh, you can't go to 1. There's the wear tear is castable. Never mind, you can't go to 1 because if you go to 1, you just die to amulets.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Tricky spot. You draw any cards here because she's been pretty adamant about not drawing cards the past couple of turns. But with 2 spikes, I feel like you want to cast one of these this turn. Maybe just like 2 cards. I could see that. Because 2 cards put you to 6, which is not directly dead to the Flage plus Exile. I guess it would be to Flage amulet damage plus the wear tear, because that would be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, she's just gonna say not draw cards.
Okay, yeah, I respect it. I mean, she's made a lot of decisions throughout the course of this match that I would not personally not have the ability to calculate, and they've all put her in a position where she's very ahead right now. So I'm kind of cool with it. Whatever the season 1 champion says is likely to be correct. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, it's not quite lethal this turn, right? You're gonna put your it is. Actually, no, it's not. So Andreas is gonna deal 5 damage to Arya, putting her to 1. The ring is on 3. However, she can go upkeep with the trigger on the stack, utilize the ring, find the black cards for the soul spikes. So we're not we're not done here. This is a really tight match on you.
Okay.
Big
Let's
draws,
see it.
big
Let's
draws.
see
Now,
it. Let's see
if
it.
if she finds 4 lands, no, which she did not.
Okay. Well, I mean, technically she did not. Technically she did not. But it's
Wait,
funny that 2 of those spells could be lands. Yeah.
I didn't realize that Andreas was going to 9. So you can go Soul Spike Andreas to 5, gain 4, go up to 5, take 4, go to 1, land hardcast second Soul Spike. That only puts Andreas to 1 because Soul Spike deals 4 and Andreas is at 9. This is a wild game.
I'm down. I'm down. This is actually pretty intense here. Huh. Okay. So then
Yeah.
what's the move?
So I'm trying to think if there is a way for Arya to kill this turn. Oh, we're going after the Blage. Interesting. Okay. Well, that changes some things, kind of, I think. So if you're going after the Flage, no, you're still dead though, because you can Soul Spike the Flage, go up to 5, but then the Flage plus the 2 amulets is still 5 damage. Unless I'm missing something. I think Andreas is probably just going to take this. This is only a 2/2. Yeah, you can also trade for the Fable.
Yep.
Yeah, you don't want to block with the Flage because it already has 4 damage on it.
Is there any world where I mean, the extra mana from Phyrexian Tower, I don't know if it actually does anything, but here we go. Yeah, Soul Spike, hit the Flage, go up to 5.
No, we're just
Andreas
dead.
at 9.
Yeah, the Flage is going to kill us because the Flage is 3 damage plus the 2 amulets, so Andreas should have it. Crazy,
That's actually
crazy.
So crazy. I mean, we saw, game number 1, Necrodominance just kind of did its thing. Andreas clawed back in game number 2 with a pretty aggressive hand, and now in game number 3, through a Necrodominance, through the One Ring, Echo Baronin, he's going to take it down, and he's going to be the winner for this pod, winning 2-0 over, I believe, Rebel, and then also